walking down some street in town, and I know he's looking there for me. I steeple and said, "The world is mine," till he holds me. Someone waits for me. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, white with foam. God bless us.
Hello.
How are you today? Are you staying warm?
I trying to. Literally, wait, let me show you like what I'm looking out outside. Can you see?
Look at Mary Sarah. And Mary, you're in Texas?
No, I'm in Nashville.
You're in Nashville. I'm in Nashville too, so I'm looking at the same thing. It's
Oh, great.
terrible.
Okay, so you're like freezing too.
Yes, correct. I'm in the Gulch, and we're like, I don't know what's happening. I'm from Florida.
We're out west, so yeah, I know. Like us Southerners, and we just don't get this.
Absolutely. All I know is I'm not getting in my car for anything, basically.
No, we went to the grocery store yesterday, and we were like, we're in for the next week. Like this is because I remember I think it was like 2015. I lived out in Franklin out here, and it was like a huge ice storm, and I legit had to like trek to Walgreens, like in a parka, like no driving. Like my sister and I just like walked to Walgreens, and luckily they stayed open because we were like running out of things.
Oh my God. But you made it. Awesome.
Oh, I mean, obviously I'm here.
Well, Mary, I mean, what can I say? I mean, look at you. So excited to have you. I mean, we've been big fans, obviously. You came into our radar with The Voice, of course, such an incredible talent, great story. I mean, you've been putting your mark on country music, and it's such a wonderful thing to see. So just welcome to the show, Mary.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I mean, so much to talk about. I mean, so many directions we can go, the Grand Ole Opry, Ryman, the mark you're leaving on country. But I feel like we have to like start with the most important thing in your life right now, and that is, how is Evelyn May?
Oh my gosh. She's great. She's great. I was going to tell you, I was like, if you hear any crying or anything, she's a little hungry right now. So I've got Mitch out there doing his daddy duty. So she's amazing. I mean, we are just, I am overflowing with love and joy, and this experience, it's the best thing I've ever been in my entire life. Like, she already teaches us so much, and I just, every time I look at her, you know, it's, everyone says it's like super hard early in the beginning to like get a schedule and everything, and you know, you say like you never get any sleep and all these things, and thank God she is a bit more of a sleeper, so we've been able to like balance that a little bit. But I mean, it's incredible. I wouldn't change it for the world, even if I was extremely tired and everything. Like, it's just it's worth it. And you're willing to,
that sounds like I'm not a parent, but that sounds, whenever a parent has a baby that sleeps, that has a regular, it's like, don't even talk about how lucky that was, kind of thing.
Exactly. You know, I will say, I literally am thanking the Lord, because my whole pregnancy, my even like birth and everything, like, has been so smooth. And to me, like, everyone keeps saying like, okay, you just wait for her to like turn 2. I'm like, they call them like the terrible twos or whatever. Or like, you know, I'm just kind of thinking like, everything's been so smooth. I'm like, when is something gonna happen? When is it gonna be like, right. You know, where I can't handle it or whatever. But I have Mitch with me, he's just an amazing father, and I love him so much. And we're doing great. So, and amazing. She's wonderful. She's healthy. We're trying to keep her warm right now. So that's just, you know, it's just freezing outside. So.
I love it. She was born January 6th, right?
January 6th. A crazy day in America.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. That's
And
right.
what's wild is like I went into labor like early 4:45 that morning. So we did not look at our phones all day. Like we had no clue what was going on. So the
Right.
next day we're looking at our phones and we're like, what the heck just
What the
happened?
heck
It
just
was
happened?
like,
Right.
yeah, it was crazy. So
But yeah,
and
but it
we
goes to show you what the important things in life are, right, Mary Sarah?
Mhm.
Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. It really, yeah. We were definitely like in our own little bubble.
good for you.
Yeah. So that was nice. And even when we figured out like everything that had happened, we were like, nope, we're turning it off. We're not paying attention to it. We're just gonna like be with our daughter,
Yeah.
and and that's like really what matters. So
Absolutely. Good for
yeah.
you. Good for you. Well, I'm really happy that she came out, so lovely and beautiful photos in People magazine of you radiating and your boyfriend and Mitch and everyone. So congratulations in order for
Thank
sure.
you so much. Thank you.
Of course, Mary, of course. So, I mean, so many great directions in your story. I mean, you were raised in the Texas Opry circuit, right? Performing since very early. Do you always remember like that being your calling, Mary Sarah? Or did you, like, as a little girl, maybe had a time when you were like, Mom, I want to be a vet or something?
so okay, so I started singing probably around the age of like 10.
Okay.
And that was by happenstance. That was just, I had piano lessons that I was taking, and I would sing along to those piano lessons just for fun. We're just like learning songs, and my piano teacher was like, "Hey, you have like pretty good pitch for a 10-year-old, and you also have a natural vibrato."
Right.
And which is not very normal. Which
That's
I
not
was like,
normal.
what? At that age, I was like, what the heck is a vibrato? I don't even know what that is. But he was like, I have a great friend who's a vocal coach, and he recommended it. And of course, like at 10, I was like, yeah, I want to sing. Like I want to, like, it's just fun. I would sing
Sure.
around the house and everything. So I just started vocal lessons like once a week, just for the heck of it. And
Right.
I really regret quitting piano, which was like a thing, but I had to pick one. There wasn't like one or the other, it was
Yeah,
like
totally.
one or one. So I chose vocal lessons, which, hey, paid off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it wasn't until though probably around 12 years old. I don't know if you know this, but I went on tour with Kidz Bop.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that was crazy.
Well, it's hard to explain to like younger generations, like Gen Z or something, how big Kidz Bop was.
Oh, huge. I mean,
It was huge.
even now, I feel like if you're a parent with like a toddler, you still are pretty familiar with Kidz Bop.
Right.
Just because it's such a great option for
Yeah.
clean music for kids these days.
Right.
So the two guys who came up with Kidz Bop, they were like two businessmen out of New York. They're geniuses. Because I'm like, that's just gonna last forever. Just having clean music for kids. That's just makes sense. But you're right. It is. It was. And what's a little bit harder too is like we were the first tour to ever happen with Kidz Bop. So Kidz Bop is a company that does the CDs, as you know, and they like recreate the songs with clean lyrics. But we were the first ever tour to happen. And so we toured across the East Coast and Midwest for
Nice.
like 48 cities.
Huge.
Yeah, it was awesome. We literally, and the company that they worked with, V Corporation, worked with Sesame Street. So we were doing like arenas and theaters, which was
yeah.
great. It was
Oh,
insane.
I remember that tour.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Mary Sarah. It was a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they still honestly do some, or like they've done like touring since, but that was where just being on stage and performing for people, and just I remember one specific show. Because of growing up in the Opries, I grew up with like traditional country music. So I was I was a bit of a standout there on that like thing, like knowing like Patsy Cline and Loretta Lynn and like
Right.
all these older artists and like all these other kids on Kidz Bop were like, we don't know who that is.
Yeah.
And so we went to a theater in a city, gosh, maybe it was Davenport. But we were like in the dressing rooms down below, and I saw Patsy Cline had signed the wall. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're playing in a theater that Patsy Cline
Patsy Cline.
played in.
That is pretty cool.
Yes, it was, and like at 12, I was just like geeking out. Like it was
That's
just
awesome.
so awesome. Yeah, so there was a whole like vibe on that show that day because I was like, oh, I get to perform in the same place as her. And I remember we each as kids had like solo songs, like we had like solo moments in the show. And mine was on Move Along by the All American Rejects.
When all you gotta keep it strong, move along like I know you do. And even when your hope is gone, move along just to make it through.
And it was the bridge or like part of it, and I went out and started to sing. And I remember, like, normally I'm such a perfectionist, I would like so think about the way I was singing, and so I'd like try to perfectly sing it every time. And there was something about that like whole show that I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna enjoy myself. I'm not even gonna think about like how I'm singing something. Like I just want to listen and like hear. And that was the first time I really took in everyone singing along with me on that bridge. And it was like a choir of angels. And I just came off that show, and my mom, I don't even think she talks about it now, and she's like, what do you do when your 12-year-old comes up to you and is like, Mom, I'm gonna do this forever. Like this is gonna be my life forever. Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
that was my moment. That was my moment.
That's strong. No, amazing. It's like the ghost of Patsy Cline just took over you on that stage. I love it.
And you want to know what? That happened on the Ryman stage too. I got to sing. It was the first time I was there. It was for a Ray Price tribute.
Right.
We did Heartaches by the Number because I did that on my record with him.
Yeah.
And then they wanted one more song, and I was like, I'm gonna do Crazy by Patsy Cline
You
because
just
I
went
was
for
like,
it. You're like, I don't care.
I'm like, I don't know, I planned on being back on the Ryman a million times, but at that time I was like, you never know, like this has to be like one of my first songs I sing in the Ryman, just because it was like such a history with like me, and like one of the first songs I sang.
Hey, Sarah, I love that story.
Yeah, so I remember praying like beforehand, and I was like pretty much praying that Patsy would just like sing through me, and I really felt like
I think she did.
Yeah, it was like such an amazing time. Yeah.
So yeah, a lot to unwrap there. I mean, the Kidz Bop thing, I can't help but feel it was almost like a blessing for you, because when you look at like your I don't know, your audition with The Voice, for example, right? And you just came in so confident, and you just wowed everybody, and it's like you had like no nerves. I'm sure you were nervous, but like you were such a persona, professional.
Thank you.
You were developing all this with the Kidz Bop thing.
Yeah. Every step in my journey has prepped me for the next one. And so I did have like a bit of more experience than some of the artists that had come on the show, just from being in the music industry and touring and like doing it for so long prior. Like a lot of people who follow me from The Voice don't even know that like I had done it years and years before. Like I've been in the music industry like years and years beforehand. Like I feel like a lot of people who watch the show are like, they just think it's like the first time someone's performing on stage, or like
no.
Time,
When you came in there with Where the Boys Are by Connie Francis, I Mary Sarah, it was like drop the mic moment for everybody. People should YouTube that immediately.
So the thing about The Voice is I had actually reached out to me like 3 or 4 years prior to actually doing it, because they've got people like looking for talent all the time, like on YouTube and everything. So I had a producer reach out, and they were like, hey, we'd love for you to come audition. And I was, gosh, I want to say like the earliest was I was like 16. Yeah, I think I was 16 when they first like reached out. And of course at 16 I'm like, oh, I still want to do it. Like, this would be so cool. But I was in the midst of recording my record Bridges.
Yeah.
And my mom always taught me, she was like, once you start something, you be sure to follow it through and finish it. And so I was like, man, I'm in the middle of this record, like, which is the most amazing record ever. I mean, that
I totally want to just talk about that record in a minute. Absolutely. It's
yeah. So I was in the midst of that. And so I just, every time they would reach out, I would be like, no, I'm so sorry. Cause that lasted till I was 18. And then we ended up touring like a radio tour with that and performing as well. So I had to wait for that record to finish to finally decide when I was 20 to do the whole voice thing. But it had been in my mind. I mean, ever since the show started, I remember envisioning myself on the stage, like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew in my heart that one day I would be up there doing it. I just didn't know when. Like I would be on the show, and
You
I
own
just,
that stage, Mary Sarah. Like, no, it was. I tell you, it's incredible to see.
thank you. Oh, that means the world. Thank you.
You had this certainty where it's like, guys, turn around the chairs. Come on, like it's like all four of you. It's
Turn
like,
around now. Come on
don't
now.
even play. Don't even play. It's like, okay. And your
Thank
parents
you.
with cars, just the parents and Carson thing, like that's worth it. I
Yeah.
feel like that montage is a classic. Anyway,
Exactly.
you talked on Bridges, and my audience is probably like, what album 16-year-old must be making? It must be one of those debut EPs, like recorded in an iPhone 4.
Yeah.
You know, no, guys, let me tell you about Bridges, the album that Mary Sarah here just humbly threw out there. It's a classic, guys, and I don't use these words lightly. It's a classic. I mean, it's called Bridges. Guys, this is a list that like she recorded this with Dolly Parton, Willie Nelson, Ray Price, Merle Haggard, Lynn Anderson, Tanya Tucker, Vince Gill, the Oak Ridge Boys, and more. And I just could go on for another minute. I mean, just take that in. Mary Sarah, how did this project begin? What?
Yeah. That's like such a loaded question, just because first off, it was a team effort to put that whole thing together. It was very much so relationship driven. I just so happened to be introed to the right people at the right time, and I was the
And
lucky.
you had the goods, but you had the goods. You had your soul shines, obviously, all the things. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was coming back and forth to Nashville in 2012. That was, no, not 2012. Sorry. 2010, I guess. I guess I was 15 years old. So yeah, 2010, because I was 17 when I moved in 2012. Yeah. So I was coming back and forth just to visit and see what Nashville was like. And I was like being told by my like vocal coach that's like definitely a place I should come. And I ended up meeting a manager, and we sat one night, and I ended up like signing with her. But we sat one night and just kind of was like throwing out ideas on like what to do and musically where to go. And my dad, he's been a part of this whole journey. My parents have been a huge, big part of my life, like with music and everything, to like help me get to where I'm at. And my dad was just like, hey, you remember we were talking about like in the Opries of Texas, people wanted a CD of like the classic songs that I was singing on stage. And so my dad was like, well, why don't we do like a record of classic songs? And, but we're going to use like Texas legend musicians. And so he was like throwing out that idea, and my manager was like, well, why don't you think a little bit bigger than that? And she threw out the idea of doing a record with legends, and we had no clue who, and like at that time, it was really like she knew Kent Wells, who produced the project, who also produces Dolly Parton. Freddie Powers, who is the executive producer on the record. He introduced us to Merle, Willie, Tanya.
That's how it is.
Yeah, and I will say, like, Freddie really took me under his wing. He was in stage 4 Parkinson's, and so it was his last, like, let me help out and like use my connections. Yeah, and like
you're part of history. I love it.
Thank you. Oh, that's great.
I love when that happens. Like last week, we lost Mary Wilson of the Supremes, and one of her last interviews was with us, with our show, and it's.
Was it really?
So it became like a thing, like you're saying with the Parkinson's and all that. Yeah, it's like a thing. Cool.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's very thankful to be like have been the artist that he decided to like get behind. And so it was really just like one thing. And I will say we were introduced to Kent first, and he asked Dolly, and when she signed on, that was literally the first artist we got. So once that happened, it was like, okay,
the rest is house money. It's house money.
It's almost like a verified check mark on social media. It was like, okay, this record's verified. So this is, But, and I will say too, the other artists on there, the Oak Ridge Boys, I actually had met them prior to even like signing with that manager.
Sure.
And that was crazy because they reached out via Twitter. when I was 15 before we started the record. And they asked me to come to one of their shows in Texas, just randomly. They had seen like a YouTube video and they were like, we love your voice. Like, why don't you bring you and your family down? Like, we'd love to have you. It was so random. I still haven't, I should ask them like why they felt the need to like bring me like there, but they ended up asking me to sing that night on that show. And they were celebrating, I think it was like 40 years of Elvira.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, I didn't know I was going to sing when I showed up. I just showed up to like meet them and like see the show. And we were backstage eating dinner and Joe Bonta looks at me and he's like, hey, do you know anything a cappella? And I was like, Where the Boys Are by Connie Francis. And I thought he was going to ask me to sing right then and there. Like I thought he just wanted me to like sing a cappella for him at dinner. Right. And I was like, yeah, sure. Let me, and I like go to stand up and he's like, no, we actually want you to sing on the show. And we also want you to sing right after celebrating Elvira.
Yeah, like, you don't need to audition over breadsticks. Like, we get it.
I know that,
You're
which
awesome.
is crazy. Yeah. And I do remember, like, I feel like a lot of the times the devil tries to steal my joy with things because I remember being super stuffy and like being like, oh no, like I can't believe I have to sing like right now. And that happened with Merle Haggard too, having to sing for his like with him on stage live. I literally didn't have a voice. And it was actually the first time I had like a shot of whiskey because my dad let me, because my voice was like not there and so raspy and everything that my dad was like, honestly, if you just like code it. And so it was funny because it was Merle's tour manager that came up.
How old were you when you had the shot of whiskey?
I was 17.
Okay, all right.
Not bad.
But for your first shot, yeah.
But it was, well, you know, I think I've had like skips prior to that, but like I think that was like my first like, let me take a giant shot of whiskey, like what the heck. And right. And what's funny is my dad was nowhere to be found, so I wasn't told that I was going to be given a shot of whiskey. And so the tour manager comes up to me, he's like, here, I have this for you. And I was like, for me? I was like, I don't what? And he's like, no, you're good. Your dad told me to bring it to you. And I was like, okay.
Okay. Oh my God, I love that.
And I ended up like whatever voice I had, I prayed. I was like, Lord, whatever voice I have, like bring it out. Cause I there was no way I wasn't getting on stage with Merle. I didn't care if I had a voice or not. I was like, I'm getting up there. I don't care what I sound like.
Yeah. My God, Mary, you're like full of amazing stories today.
Thanks.
I can't. I love it.
Listen, I've been in quarantine and I've also just been like with a baby for the last like month of like I probably have a lot to talk about with people.
No, this is awesome. Like, thank you so much for sharing them. I mean, Merle Haggard, I mean, such great stuff. You talked about the Grand Ole Opry. What a special place. I mean, we've been here since December. I mean, all my career was in Miami radio. In December, I moved here. Finally got to go to the Opry recently for Rhonda Vincent's induction ceremony. Hanged out with her. She was amazing. Got to like experience a lot of the place. I learned that it's like it's a family, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
How would you describe it?
Well, so I mean, doing the Ryman was amazing too, because that's like the beginning mother church, you know, doing that. But then being able to go to like the Opry where it's at now, that was, I mean, you've been backstage back there, right? Like it's stunning. Like the whole thing is just like gorgeous. It's like the best backstage I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, normally when you go to backstage, it's very not.
Yeah. The green room.
Yeah, the green room. And like sometimes it's actually green.
Yeah.
But I remember it was my first show, and Mark Wills specifically, I remember him like. I'd never met him before, and he came into my room and was like, hey, I just want to like welcome you to the fam, and like just like was like, don't be nervous, like you got this, like just such a pep talk. And I'm like, oh my God, you're such a nice guy, what the heck.
Pause. Do you, when all these things happen, Merle Haggard, Mark Wells, are you conscious that like you're having this one-on-one conversations, that this is happening? Like it's like unbelievable.
You know what's fun? It's like really, I've always told my mom, I was like, I feel like I've had a hard time, like, I don't know, like being like literally in a moment, like realizing something's happening to me. You know, it's like, it's not until afterwards that I'm like, oh my God, that happened to me. Like, and even now I look back and like I have I feel like I have more of an appreciation for even the Bridges record and like Kidz Bop and all these things that I've gone through, looking back at it, going like, wow. And then like having things happen to me, like The Voice, and going like, I like wouldn't have been prepared if I wouldn't have gone through that or this or that. Like, it's just so much more of an appreciation for those things. But in the moment, you're like freaking out. You're like nerves. And so it is a bit hard to like be in the moment and be like, this just happened, and like, but then you look back like that night, I mean, I was like on cloud nine. I went to dinner afterwards and like, it was heavenly. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It just, you walk out there, the crowd is amazing. I mean, they're so welcoming. And the band, working with the house band there, I think is just like such a privilege too. They're so incredible. You're just like, here's my music, play it. And they're like,
right.
And you're just like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So it's an amazing experience. I highly recommend to anybody, like, do a backstage experience at the Opry, just to like see where everyone like hangs out and everything, and like understand the history. It's incredible.
Yeah, and you're gonna be part of it for a long time, Mary Sarah. Like, that's the cool part. It's like you're part of the fabric. It's so great to see.
Thank you.
Mary, you've been so generous with your time. I feel like you have a mom and family duties to go to, but let me leave you with this, because this has been such a treat. It's been unbelievable.
Oh, thank you.
You're so grounded and special. It's easy to see like the human qualities just radiating out of you. What are some of the lessons, do you think, Mary Sarah, and blessings that we as Americans can? I know it's a loaded question, that we can take, like, as we turn the corner with this quarantine.
Yeah.
Going forward, like, what did we learn from this year and a half that we, like, as humans, as Americans?
Yeah. I think a lot of, and I don't think I'm the only person in this. I think everyone, we had a shift in perspective, being, having to be quarantined and, not going to work every single day. And like, it just, our whole lot, everybody, not just like a group of people, it was everybody in the world, their lives changed. And and the thing about change is like, growth comes with change. And so I think that's what happened with a lot of people. And, maybe, I don't know if maybe some didn't grow in the right ways or whatever, but like, I feel like most people learned that, like, just to have perspective and learn to appreciate like the things that truly matter in your life.
Exactly.
I mean, I have a lot of like friends here who were like, man, I was going out all the time. And like, now they're like in bed by like 10 o'clock and they like have a totally different like schedule and they love it. And they're like, thriving.
Yeah,
they're like thriving, and like, it's just like a whole, a lot of my friends who had drinking problems, like literally, like, it's changed and they're doing better. And I think that's like one thing, is like just to prioritize the things that truly matter in your life. And I think don't put so much pressure on like all the achievements and all these things, and like just live right where you're at. Like, and appreciate the people that you do have around you and the family you have around you. And I think for me, it was like, even now I write it down, like, I want to be more aware and like more, I guess communicate more with like family that I don't talk to a lot. And like, it's giving you the time to like think about those things. Absolutely. And go, I think I want to do that more. And I think my word every year, and at first it was grace, because this year for 2021, we do a word every year as like a family. And my word was grace at first, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a mom. I'm going to need a lot of grace, because I just, nothing's going to be perfect or whatever. But I really, literally last night was like, I think my word is actually intentional, is what I really want my word to be. And it kind of just like stuck out to me. And Beautiful. Just have intention with everything that I do. Even just the simple things, from waking up and making your bed, like that, like just being intentional with it and going like, and so I think, again, with change, growth happens. And I think we're all just continuing to grow. And I think there's been huge blessings out of this whole experience. And I know it's been a lot of negative and a lot of like tragic things have happened, but there's also a lot of beautiful things that have happened. And it's amazing. So I just said, be more intentional and prioritize the things you really love in life.
Mary Sarah, you said it all. And speaking of intentional, we're very grateful for your time.
Aw.
Really been
No, I
enjoying.
have so enjoyed this so much. Thank you. And you're incredible at interviewing. So I really it's like an easy flow conversation, you know. So I really appreciate it.
Thank
And
you, thank you.
love it.
So
I
thank
love the sign in the background.
Oh,
That's
the Mary Sarah sign. Listen, you gotta first it up for country royalty. So
thank you, thank you.
have a great day, Mary Sarah. Stay warm, stay safe out there, stay off the roads, and all that stuff we're learning, Southerners, right?
You too, you too. All right, we'll
Yeah.
talk soon, hopefully.
All right, take care.
I'll see ya.